Have you ever felt that pang in your chest when the woman who keeps you up at night doesn't even notice you exist? That emptiness that consumes you when you see her laugh with another man, while you, invisible, wonder what they have that you don't. Listen closely, because what I'm about to reveal defies everything you thought you knew about attraction. I'm not talking about cheap tricks or lies. I'm talking about an ancient code that only 3% of men know. A code that transforms attraction into obsession. If you like this now, it's because something inside you already knows you need this. Society programmed you for failure, but today we'll break those chains. Welcome to the dark side of seduction, where Machiavelli and modern psychology meet to turn you into the man they'll never forget. Listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you, because you're about to awaken to a reality few men know. There's an ancient dance between bodies and minds, a silent game where most men follow rules that never worked, while a select few know the secret moves that transform attraction into obsession. I'm not talking about immorality or deceit, but something far deeper and more disturbing. The understanding that everything you were taught about winning a woman's heart was a carefully constructed lie designed to keep you in emotional mediocrity. Do you know that devastating feeling of seeing the woman of your dreams chatting with another man while you remain there? Motionless, invisible, reduced to being a silent witness to your own irrelevance. That frustration that gnaws at you when you always end up being the kind friend she seeks out to vent about the idiot she's with, while you feign understanding, even as inside you're tearing yourself apart with powerlessness. That feeling of being eternally transparent to the women you're actually interested in, as if you're a benevolent ghost condemned to watch from the shadows while others live the life you desire. Everything you feel, all that anguish that accompanies you on lonely nights, ends today. Because what I'm about to reveal isn't just a method, it's the understanding of a secret code that only approximately 3% of men know and apply. It's extremely rare to find someone who truly masters these principles in practice because they go against all the social conditioning we've received since childhood. Let's be direct and ruthlessly honest with yourself. You've tried everything, right? You bought that expensive cologne thinking the scent would give you confidence. You tried to impress with costly gifts, believing money buys affection. You were that super attentive guy who replies to messages immediately because you thought constant availability was synonymous with genuine interest. And where did all that lead you? Straight to the friend zone. That emotional limbo where good intentions turn into romantic invisibility. The brutal truth is, you were programmed to fail from the start. Society, romantic movies, even your own mother, they all taught you the wrong path. They told you to be gentle, polite, respectful, and don't get me wrong, those are important qualities for being a good human being. But alone, isolated from other more primitive and powerful elements, they don't create that unstoppable attraction that makes a woman unable to get you out of her mind. Do you know what does create it? Tension, mystery, a little calculated danger that activates her deepest instincts. Think with me for a moment. Why does that guy who isn't even that handsome manage to conquer them all? Because he possesses that unshakable confidence that makes women gravitate around him like planets around the sun. Because he understands something fundamental that you haven't grasped yet. Seduction doesn't happen in logic. It doesn't unfold in the realm of rational conversations and convincing arguments. It happens in instinct, in her subconscious, in those primitive layers of the brain where decisions are made before the conscious mind even realizes it. Do you think women consciously choose who they fall in love with? Of course not. It's their primitive brain that decides. That ancestral part from the caveman days when survival depended on choosing the right mate. And that brain doesn't care about flowers or expensive dinners. It isn't swayed by romantic gestures straight out of movies. It cares about signals of value, social dominance, and protective ability. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago when he wrote that men must either be caressed or annihilated. He understood that attraction is neither democratic nor fair. It is primitive and ruthless. And those who understand its rules govern the emotional game while others watch confused as they lose every opportunity. The first forbidden technique you must master is what Machiavelli understood perfectly, the power of the strategic move. Seduction doesn't begin with a simple, polite hello that vanishes into thin air without a trace. It begins with a disruption, a fracture in the expected, a spark in the silence that awakens something dormant within her. Forget everything you were told about traditional introductions. Forget that robotic, "How are you?" that dies the moment it's uttered and immediately categorizes your interaction as just another one. The first move isn't about being nice or harmless. It's about taking control of the emotional rhythm from the very first second, establishing that you are not just another in the herd of predictable men who approach her with the same tired lines and approaches she's heard 1,000 times. Imagine approaching her, but instead of being predictable like everyone else, you say something like, "You look like someone who hates small talk but secretly loves chaos." In that moment, something changes in her expression. She pauses, blinks. Her brain sparks to life like an engine just fed high-octane fuel. Why does this happen? Because you've interrupted her automatic pattern, that mental filter programmed to automatically discard generic men who approach her. In that instant, you're no longer one of them. You've made her curious, and curiosity is the gateway drug to desire. This is what most men never understand. The first sentence is the foundation of the entire game that follows. It's like the opening move in chess. It sets the tempo for the entire match. It defines the emotional battlefield. If you open weakly, with something common and predictable, you've already put yourself on the defensive. You'll spend the rest of the interaction chasing her, trying to regain lost ground. But if you open strong with something unexpected, poetic, or slightly absurd, you gain frame control. Now she's in your world, playing by your rules. This is strategic movement. It's not about exactly what you say. It's about how sharply you cut through the everyday noise. It's about projecting a clear psychological signal. I'm not here to impress you out of desperation. I'm here to see if you're worth the game. And this isn't just verbal, it's energetic. It's your tone, your timing, the deliberate calm in your speech, that slight smile, as if you already know how this is all going to end. Men who approach with high-frequency, predictable lines are dismissed by her subconscious in seconds. But a man who walks with a sense of controlled unpredictability, he becomes a question she wants to answer. Never forget this. Women are attracted to what they don't immediately understand. So be the enigma, be the disruption, be the man who speaks not to impress with pretty words, but to provoke something inside her that she had forgotten she could feel. The Italian philosopher knew that men judge more by their eyes than by their intellect. Your first impression shouldn't be rational, but visceral. It shouldn't activate her analysis, but her instinct. Think of it as a forbidden spell. When you utter the right words, with the right energy, you create a vortex of curiosity. And remember, in the realm of seduction, he who controls curiosity controls attention. He who controls attention controls emotion. And he who controls emotion controls everything. Renaissance magicians knew that true power lies not in brute force, but in the subtle manipulation of perception. When you master this first Machiavellian spell, you'll notice how the dynamic changes instantly. You won't be begging for attention anymore. You'll effortlessly command it. And when your first move makes her pause and think, the game is already yours. You've planted the seed of intrigue. You've broken her initial resistance, and now you're ready for the second forbidden ritual, the attitude that will bend her will without her even noticing. The second Machiavellian spell focuses on something Nicholas himself understood perfectly when he wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved, if one cannot be both." This is where the entire foundation of attraction begins to harden into something unbreakable, something untouchable, something extraordinarily rare in the modern world. Confidence isn't what you say, it's what you don't need to say. You see, she perceives everything before you open your mouth. She reads your essence. She observes how you sit, how long you maintain eye contact, whether your presence fills the room or begs for space. True confidence is silent. It walks unannounced, speaks slowly, moves with certainty, and above all, doesn't fear loss. That is the attitude you need to embody. I don't need you, and I'm not afraid of you. This is the posture that turns the entire power dynamic on its head. And once you learn it, she starts to qualify herself to you, instead of you having to prove your worth to her. Let me make it visual so you understand completely. Think about the last time you walked into a car showroom. The salesperson who hounded you, who clung to you like a shadow, who kept asking, "Do you like it? Do you want to test drive it? What do you think?" They exuded a desperation you could smell. and you instantly had the advantage because their neediness diminished their value in your eyes. Now imagine another salesperson. They greet you calmly, show you the car elegantly, then quietly withdraw. They know what they're offering. They know you'll feel it if it's right for you. Suddenly, you feel the need to prove you're worthy of the deal. You start asking questions. You start to justify your interest. It's exactly the same in seduction. When you demonstrate that your life is complete, rich in purpose, full of joy, anchored in strength, with or without her, you become the prize, not the desperate hunter, not the emotional beggar pleading for attention. And women don't chase men they pity, they chase men they respect, men who represent something they wish to achieve or experience. How do you radiate this attitude through your body? Because words lie, but energy never lies. Shoulders relaxed, yet strong. An upright posture that speaks of dignity. Unwavering eye contact that doesn't apologize for existing. Slow, steady breathing. Precise and intentional movements as if you were the master of time itself. No trembling hands, no nervously bouncing legs, no fast, anxious speech. You speak as if you trust your silence, because studies show that over 90% of communication is nonverbal. She doesn't just hear you, she feels you in every fiber of her being. And if your energy says, "Please love me," she will pull away, even if your words say something completely different. But if your presence says, "You're welcome to join me, but I won't bend for approval," she leans in because detachment is intoxicating. It's addictive. It's what most men never manage to convey. Remember, Machiavelli advised princes, men are quicker to forget the death of their father than the loss of their inheritance. This means that perceived value is everything. If you behave like someone valuable, you will be treated as such. If you beg for attention, you will be treated like a beggar. This is the paradox that changes everything. The less you seek validation, the more your value multiplies in her eyes. So remember, don't chase her attention. Pursue your own inner power, because when a man becomes magnetic from within, everything outside begins to orbit around him as if he were the gravitational center of his own universe. Weak men seek external approval. Strong men generate internal approval. When she perceives that you don't need her validation to feel complete, paradoxically, she begins to seek your validation. This is the forbidden ritual of emotional self-sufficiency. Machiavelli understood that the end justifies the means. In this case, the end is your transformation into a man of unshakable value. The means is the constant practice of this attitude until it becomes part of your nature, until you don't have to fake it, but it emanates from you, like the warmth of the sun. This third Machiavellian ritual is the most counterintuitive of all. The seductive art of stepping back right at the peak of connection. Not because you don't care, but because you understand one of the most powerful truths about human desire. Something Machiavelli understood perfectly when he wrote, "Men desire, but are afraid to let go of the old for the new." Nostalgia creates obsession. Emptiness generates desperate longing. You know that perfect moment when conversation flows effortlessly, when smiles come naturally, when she's completely present with you, engrossed in your presence, hanging on your every word. That's not the time to push forward and squeeze out every last drop of that connection. That's the time to leave, to disappear, just when everything feels most alive and promising. Yes, exactly, at the highest point, just when it feels most electric and full of possibilities. You simply say, "I'd love to stay longer, but I have to go. Let's continue this another time." What happens next isn't logical. It's completely chemical and primitive. Her brain releases a considerable amount of dopamine, and then you disappear. You've just become the cliffhanger episode, the song that cuts off at the best part, the book that closes just as the plot gets interesting. Think about the last addictive series you watched. It didn't explain everything, it didn't resolve all the plot lines, it left you hungry for more. That's what you need to become. Not the 3-hour movie that drags on until everyone loses interest, but the tense, suspenseful episode that leaves her breathless and counting down the days until the next season. This means you don't reply the moment she texts you. You don't answer every call as if you're waiting by the phone. You live your life. You move through your world like a man on a mission, a man with options, purpose, his own gravity. Because when she notices your absence, Her emotional radar activates in a way she can't control. Where is he? Who is he with? Why hasn't he replied? And in that moment, she's not just thinking about you, she's feeling you. Now you're in her mind, looping, replaying your voice, rereading your last text, as if it's a secret code she needs to decipher. This is the crucial shift when she starts to chase, not out of strategy, but out of tension, unresolved emotion, a craving for resolution. That's what most men never understand. They stay too long, reply too fast, eliminate all the tension, and in doing so, kill desire in its cradle. Machiavelli taught rulers that a prudent prince cannot and should not keep his word when such observance works against his interests. It's not about lying, but about understanding that strategy sometimes requires retreating when everyone expects you to advance. What you're doing is creating an emotional void, and human nature abhors a vacuum. She will begin to fill it with fantasies about you, with thoughts, with theories about why you're not available. And the more she elaborates these theories, the deeper you will embed yourself into her psyche. It's like an emotional hook that you plant and then slowly reel in. Each time you pull away, the hook digs a little deeper. Every message not immediately replied to, every date ended at the perfect moment, every goodbye at the peak of fun. All of this creates an addictive cycle of anticipation and reward. But you will learn to gracefully pull away, to leave her with a taste, not the full meal, to create silences that resonate louder than words, because that is the most beautiful and cruel paradox. The less she has of you, the more she'll need you. This is not blind arrogance, it's not calculated manipulation. This is pure psychology masterfully applied, and the man who masters it doesn't chase like a desperate predator. He attracts by releasing, he pulls by letting go, he conquers by withdrawing at the perfect moment. Strategic neglect is the art of creating longing through calculated absence. It's understanding that space doesn't separate, but intensifies. It's the perfect application of Machiavelli's maxim: never attempt to win by force what can be won by strategy. The fourth Machiavellian ritual focuses on relentless audacity, taking the initiative and escalating the interaction when necessary, without doubts that paralyze you. This is the moment of truth where most men fail miserably, where all the previous pillars crumble if you don't have the courage to act. You created attraction, built emotional tension, played the game of detachment. Now you need to act decisively. And this is where fear appears in all its ugliness. The fear of rejection, the fear of ruining everything you've built, the fear of being seen as invasive or inappropriate. But let me tell you a secret that will transform your perspective forever. Women want you to take the initiative. They fantasize about a man who knows what he wants and isn't afraid to go after it without apologizing for his masculinity. Almost no one realizes this, but hesitation kills more opportunities than rejection itself. When you feel the moment is right, act without asking permission, without asking if you can. You read her signals and advance with the confidence of someone who understands the silent language of desire. It could be taking her hand while you walk. It could be pulling her closer during a conversation. It could be that kiss at the perfect moment when silence speaks louder than 1,000 words. Calculated audacity is what separates men from boys playing at being men. It's what makes her mention you to her friends the next day. It's what creates impactful memories she can't forget even if she wanted to. Machiavelli understood this perfectly when he wrote, "Timid men rarely rise to prominence." Audacity isn't recklessness, it's decisive action based on a precise reading of the moment. It's understanding that in the world of attraction, he who hesitates loses. But there's an art to this audacity. It's not about being crude or insensitive. It's about controlled aggression, a determined but observant advance. You watch her reactions. If there's genuine resistance, you adapt. If there's enthusiastic acceptance, you escalate. It's a dance, not a monologue. Think of it like a chess player who sacrifices a piece to win the game. Sometimes you must risk momentary rejection to gain permanent respect. Because even in rejection, audacity generates respect. The man who acts decisively, even if he fails, is etched into memory. The man who hesitates fades into oblivion. There's a crucial moment in every interaction where the air thickens, where gazes hold for a second longer than normal, where there's a pause charged with possibility. That is the moment to act. Not a minute later, not when you've analyzed all the possibilities. Right there, in that ephemeral instant where desire materializes in the space between you. And when you act at that precise moment, something magical happens. Time slows down, defenses fall, resistance vanishes, because you've shown that you understand the nonverbal language of desire, that you can read what her body is saying when her words are silent. Are you ready for this level of intensity and commitment? Because audacity isn't something you can half-heartedly fake. You're either audacious or you're not. There's no middle ground in the art of decisive initiative. Now I know what you must be thinking, and let's clear it up once and for all. This isn't manipulation in the toxic sense of the word. It's not being a heartless jerk. Manipulation is when you lie, deceive, or do something against her will. What I'm teaching you is exactly the opposite. It's about being authentic in your masculinity, understanding what truly creates attraction, and acting in accordance with that understanding. Think with me. When a woman puts on makeup, chooses a beautiful outfit, wears a special perfume, is she being manipulative? Of course not. She's presenting herself in the best possible way. She's using tools to become more attractive. That's exactly what you're doing. Using psychological tools to awaken genuine attraction. The fifth Machiavellian ritual focuses on magnetic touch and cold reading. This has nothing to do with uncontrolled lust. It's not about groping or forcing situations. This is an ancestral ritual, a primitive language that transcends words. Touch is humanity's oldest language, older than words, deeper than logic. It bypasses the mind and speaks directly to the subconscious where real decisions are made. But here's the secret that changes everything. She isn't attracted to the touch itself. She's attracted to the way it happens. It's perfect timing. It's rhythm. It's clear intention. The right touch at the right moment can tie a memory to her body in a way that will last forever. But the wrong touch, the rushed, the forced, kills everything. Instantly. How does it begin then? Not with blind audacity, but with calculated innocence. A light touch on her shoulder as you laugh at something she said. A hand gently guiding her through a doorway. A slow, playful high five that lingers half a second longer than normal. Moments that feel natural but leave an indelible mark. You escalate not through pressure, but through presence. You touch and then you withdraw. And that withdrawal is everything. It creates absence, and absence creates longing. This is what most men never understand. Touch isn't about the contact. It's about what happens in the moment after. Because when you touch and then stop, her body feels the silence and begins to miss you before you're even gone. This is the intermittent touch, the psychological equivalent of a heartbeat. On, off, near, far, safe, dangerous. It builds tension she can't name. It floods her system with oxytocin and dopamine, the same chemicals released during pleasure and connection. But you're not connecting. You're etching yourself into her nervous system like a mark she'll never be able to erase. And here's the beautiful paradox. The more natural it seems, the more powerful it becomes. You shouldn't telegraph intention. You shouldn't hesitate. You touch like a man who has done it 1,000 times, not because you're desperate, but because you are self-contained. Your hand doesn't ask for permission. It reads her reaction. If she leans into you, you know. If she pulls away, you adapt. Because masculine touch isn't invasive, it's observant. It listens with its skin. And when used correctly, it makes her feel something terribly rare in the modern world. A man who is in control of himself and attuned to her at the same time. That is magnetic. That is what keeps her awake at night. Because long after the words are forgotten, she'll remember how you made her feel. Not in her mind, but in her body. But there's one last weapon you must master. One that most men don't even think about. Cold reading isn't magic. It's precision. The silent art of reading what she wants before she even knows it. Because every woman leaves subtle signals. Not in her words, but in her patterns. The way she dresses, the speed of her voice, the rhythm of her walk, what she posts online, where she goes, what she avoids. You're no longer just a man. You're an emotional detective reading between the lines, tracking the energy behind the words, sensing the unspoken signals. A woman, wearing flashy, sparkly jewelry, is screaming for attention. She wants the spotlight and confirmation that she still has it. A woman in subtle, elegant tones is deeper, more private. She longs to be understood, not just superficially seen. Observe her manner of speaking. If she speaks fast, gesticulates broadly, she's spontaneous, reactive, guided by raw feeling. If she speaks slowly, carefully, she's calculated, guarded, strategic in every move. And when you adjust your energy to match her hidden nature, when you reflect what she truly needs without her asking for it, you become irresistible because you're not offering what she's consciously demanding. You're offering what she's secretly dying to receive. That is the real power, the understanding that every human being is hungry for something they can't even articulate. But here's the trap most men fall into. They try to do everything instantly. They stuff themselves with techniques, force results, imitate, act, perform a script. That isn't their own. But this isn't acting. This is the embodiment of your true masculine nature. So slow down, start with just one ritual. Apply it for a week until it becomes real, until it's a part of you. Then another and another, until the system isn't something you memorize, but something you are. Because this forbidden method I'm giving you isn't about turning you into someone else. It's about freeing the real you, the alpha that society buried under years of shame, guilt, and conditioning. That made you believe your masculinity was something to apologize for. The moment is now, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. The scalpel of time cuts mercilessly while you continue to hesitate in the shadows of your own indecision. Every second you spend analyzing is a second another man is acting, taking what could have been yours. Inside you lives a man women long to know, but you've locked him in the dungeon of your fears. It's time to break the chains, if you don't dare. To use what you've learned today, you don't deserve to complain tomorrow when loneliness visits you again. This is not a game, it's the silent war for your emotional future. Comment right now, "I command without saying anything," and join the Brotherhood of Awakened Men. In our next encounter, I will reveal the forbidden ritual that makes her seek you out even when she's with someone else. Time is running out. The decision is now. Will you remain invisible, or will you become unforgettable?